Hey, we are here again with Unsung Heroes live podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today we have quite a hero for you. His name is Adam, and Adam is going to share with us his journey and what has made him successful in life and coping with his own issues. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you as well.
So share with us a little bit about where you were raised, some of the struggles you may have had through those years. Just tell us about yourself.
Well, grew up in Pittsburgh, PA my whole life. So get to deal with the 4 seasons every year.
Okay, yeah.
And how that affects you. Very blue collar town, obviously. So you learn a lot of good work ethic.
Yes, good.
So let's see. I don't really know when the true aspects of my symptoms of my condition of ADHD really came into play initially. After really looking at myself in my early 20s and realizing I needed to do something because I didn't know what was going on. I just knew my entire life I had been distracted, energetic, and relatively struggled in school.
Okay.
So
there were signs and symptoms early on in school.
Yeah, I actually had a teacher the one time who wanted to put me in a special class because she thought I had a learning disability. Because I had such a hard time focusing. That was around 3rd grade.
Okay, so that's definitely a stigma that oftentimes we see with adult ADD or ADD, ADHD as a child.
Yeah.
Right? Did you have that hyperactive component?
I never considered myself being the hyperactive individual, but as I've gotten older, I do actually see it. Okay. I can be a more energetic, positive person, but and that does limit my ability to focus, especially at work. If I'm not trying to control my ADHD, then it runs rampant. And
Okay. Had people or teachers made comments growing up, even past your 3rd grade year?
I've had a couple of employers at times tell me that I seemed distracted, and if there was anything they could do to assist in my day-to-day work ethic, which while I was a great worker, if I had a very single task in front of me or something I could really hyper-focus into, I could get the job done. But they tried to give me multiple tasks early on, it would become challenging.
Yes. Whenever you were faced with those challenges, how did you feel?
It felt overwhelming. Like there would be times where I thought I was doing a great job, but then someone come to me and be like, why did you get this done in time? Or why are you still working on these? You should have this much done. And that would be deflating because here I thought I did a great job, but in reality, I was holding back.
Okay. So in terms of feeling deflating, did that lead to any other emotions?
Frustration. Sadness, low self-esteem. I would then, belittle myself and put myself down.
That negative self-talk.
Yeah, and it would, on the reverse side, it would drive me to perfection because anything below 100% or getting everything done perfectly, which is played into my competitive aspect of my personality, hate losing, and so it would all play together. If I didn't do everything absolutely perfect, if I messed up in any way, if I got 99 out of 100, it was a fail.
Okay. How did that affect your relationships around you?
It makes it difficult because I can go from incredibly happy to, hey, you messed this up, and it wrecks my rest of my day. That can be deflating for a parent when they're trying to, especially a father who does everything he can to help you be a better person, and he coaches you up even just the slightest on, hey, you could have done this better, and then I would get really defensive. Even to this day, I still get pretty defensive about when someone tells me I did something wrong. Now I have to know how to at least take it and maybe an hour later realize they were right and incorporate that into what I'm doing, but it still takes a second.
What is your inner dialogue like when those moments happen?
Inner dialogue? That's probably, I call myself a jackass a lot.
Okay.
And sometimes it's very playful in a way with myself that it's just silly. It can almost encourage me. I'm not taking it too seriously. I can use, if I start using more derogatory terms for myself and really start giving myself a hard time, it'll start to show on the outside.
Okay.
And really bring me down for the rest of the day. I'll go from, like I said, happy and energetic to everyone going, what happened? You were so happy. And I just completely mellow out and cancel everyone out who is around me. It can affect me at work because I'm in a position of supervision where I have to monitor those around me.
Yes.
And if I'm closing myself off, then if I'm giving them instruction, it comes across mean and demeaning. Okay. So I need to be careful.
What were some of the challenges you have found in your education and the pursuit of education as a result of the ADD?
It makes it really hard to really focus on any more than one class at a time.
Okay.
I'll have a class, like if I'm taking a psychology class, I'll love that class. I'll put all I can into it. And even then, I still procrastinate and don't give it a full effort, but enough that I can do a good job in the class and it's recognized. But if I have 5 classes, and especially if I don't like one of them, I don't put any effort into that one. Yes. And then that's when you get C's and sometimes even worse. Or in some cases, you have a semester where you blow everything off because it's just not something you're interested in at the time.
Okay, so interest is really important. What we do know about ADD is that people who have ADD tend to be a higher level of intelligence. They tend to have a higher IQ, which explains the ability to be able to, have that interest and do really, really well without a whole lot of effort.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've noticed that myself, like, I love to learn. Yeah. I study history. I can read like the NFL Record and Fact book. Yeah. And I used to read that just for fun. And now I'm just a stat, quoting machine sometimes, at least. Not as much as I used to out of practice, but and then you turn around and give me like a math book. Okay. And just as an example, I took Algebra 1 3 times, twice in high school and once again in college before I finally passed with something that I considered adequate.
Yes, yes. How did that affect you emotionally?
It was frustrating because it'd be a night before I felt like I had a grasp on everything, and then as you take the test the next day and you get a D on it when you're like, I was acing the homework, whether that's just test stress or just a lack of retaining the information. Yeah. And with ADD, a lot of information presented at one time can be overwhelming. So we notice that people really prefer to chunk the information. So what that would look like is being given just part of the test rather than the whole test at a time. So it doesn't increase anxiety, but instead allows you to relax and have the answers so you don't lose that memory. Yeah. I would say that does come, if the teacher would do that, that'd probably help. Right. I know CCAC has, they let people who have difficulty focusing on tests, they let you take it in a quiet space. Yes. Where you're not, like, especially for someone like me, I needed to finish the test first every time. And so taking a test in a space away from everyone actually helped because I felt like I could take my time instead of rushing through it to be the first one done. And not that anyone is even paying attention. No. No one cares that you're done first. If anything, I just, by doing it instead of, the allotted 60 minutes, getting it done in 15, I probably hurt my classmates who struggle with testing because they're like, why can't I do it that fast? When in reality, they have no clue that I'm BSing my way through the test because I'm just trying to get it done quickly. Yes, yes. You and I are both from this town. So for those who aren't from this town, CCAC is a community college. It's a local college that you attended. Yes. Right? So academically, that's a good tip that whenever there's a struggle or there's an ADD aspect, you can go to the local school and ask for that assistance, ask for that help. Yeah. So what are some of the stigmas you've run into with ADD? Well, one of the most frustrating is when everyone tries to claim that they have it. And some people genuinely, I've run into a lot of people who genuinely have it and we're able to talk about it. But then it can be frustrating when you have a group of friends and they go, oh, I had an ADD moment or an ADHD moment just because they forgot to do something. Not realizing that, it doesn't get the same stigma as depression or schizophrenia or any other sort of ailment, but it's still frustrating to hear that from other people where they are just demeaning the condition, not understanding exactly what goes into it on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just focus and lack of the ability to sit still, but there's depression that can come into it. There's anxiety, panic attacks, and then low self-esteem because you mess things up on a regular basis. There's so much more to it. It's a day-to-day struggle that I've had to take a lot of effort to hold my symptoms at bay. Yeah. In a way.
Right. I think too, we really saw it being overdiagnosed for a long time. And that was part of the issue and why people made more light of it. They didn't take it as seriously. Yeah. And I think we've come full circle from there. And we are doing better at diagnosing and not over-diagnosing as clinicians, as doctors, but that stigma is still in place where it's made fun of. But it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Just deal with it.
You get so many people that's just like, oh, you must just be stupid. And it's like, no. In fact, ADHD people, like you said, can sometimes be very intelligent, but we just don't know how to direct that intelligence in a way that's constructive. Yes. Or I like to call it, I read it in an article I read before, it's the ADHD superpower, where because of what we can focus on at one time, we often can figure out problems way faster than the average person. Where it can even be something simple as I had a coworker who couldn't find something. They were looking for it all day, and I came into work and they told me they couldn't find it, and I was able to locate it in mere seconds based off of the information they gave me, and it was just in a spot that was abnormal for the item they were looking for. Right. But because I was just able to find it, and there's so many situations like that where sometimes we can't grasp anything, and then other times we can just quickly solve things in ways that other people can't.
Well, and I think to really hit your point home, when we look at who are the famous people who have ADD, have you ever looked at that list?
Honestly, I haven't. Yeah. Enjoy articles of people talking about the day-to-day. I never did look up famous people.
Yeah, there is a whole slew of people who are famous that actually have ADD. And let's see if we'll pull it up real quick. It's actually rather interesting to know that so many of these people were highly intelligent. And not so much. Einstein, Bill Gates. Some of these are famous people as well. But there has been several very highly intelligent people. And I always remind my son who has ADD that, there are so many people that we're not even aware of have ADD because they've been able to manage their symptoms. They've been able to, really just wrap their head around what they need to do and battle that stigma. So in what ways have you been able to battle that stigma and learn to cope?
Well, it took a long time. Yeah. Even after I knew about it, and you can read all the articles all day long, and this is what you need to do. And some things are more helpful than others, but you actually have to put an effort into it.
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
Well, one of the things that was a hard thing for me to grasp because of pride in general was making a list and putting things on a wall that I need to get these accomplished. Yes. Because we can so easily just forget. And having I had to lower my pride a little bit to actually do that because I didn't want to be the person that, you have someone over and it's, what's this wall of, do your bills, work out, any little thing, make this doctor's appointment. Didn't want to be that person, but it actually helps immensely. Good. And then the next step with that would be actually following through. Yes. You can make a list all day, but if you don't actually work on them, then you're not going to get anything done. Another thing is something that I actually get made fun of sometimes for, but when I was riding a motorcycle on a regular basis, I got used to keeping a backpack with me because I didn't have saddlebags and wasn't in the car. Yes. And I got used to putting things in that. And with that came a realization that I can hold all this stuff in here, and then as long as I have that bag, I'm not forgetting anything.
I like that.
On a regular basis, initially, I would forget my keys, my phone, my wallet, and lock them all in my house, sometimes all at once, and then you can't call for help.
Yeah, who has been there? We've all done that at one time or another.
Yeah, and on a regular basis, I'm talking like 5 times a month. The one job I was at, they got used to breaking me into my car because I'd lock them in there so often. Okay. So having that backpack with all that stuff, and it helps diminish that. In fact, I've only locked my keys in my house once because you get used. It's a familiar place you're putting everything.
Yes.
I've even gone out and bought multiple phone chargers. Kept one in the bedroom, one at my desk, one in my bag to take to work because I'd take it to work and leave it at work, or I'd forget to take it with me.
Yes.
My phone would die all the time because I forget to plug it in, but at least I have something with me.
Right.
Or another thing that ADHD people struggle with, especially me, is I don't know about other people who have it, but I don't like to prepare food.
Okay.
It takes too long. I just want to get the eating aspect over with.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoy eating certain foods, but I want to get it done. It's stopping me from doing things in my day. I get impatient.
Okay.
So sometimes I forget to eat, or I don't want to put the time into it. So I keep a steady supply of protein bars and V8 cans and stuff that if I am going to be skipping meals, or if I forget, I at least have backups to keep myself nourished and energized so I'm not basically starving myself.
I think that is a great idea. I love that. So talk to me about what would cause you to forget to eat.
Well, the biggest thing that I would forget to eat is poor time management.
Yes.
Just like, oh, I have this much time, but you don't factor in eating into that. And then you're getting ready to go somewhere and you're like, wow, I'm actually really hungry, but I don't have time to eat anything.
Yes.
Or just hyper focusing into a task. The amount of times where it's like, oh, you enjoy doing something, whether it's watching TV, reading a book, or organizing, your file cabinet for bills, and you just get so focused into it, you lose track of time, and the next thing you know, you haven't eaten anything. And when you finally come out of that phase of being so sucked into what you're doing, you realize how hungry you are. You haven't drank anything in hours.
Yes.
So keeping that stuff around, at least for me, in the backpack and everything, because if it happens when I'm driving the car and realize I didn't eat anything, at least I have a protein bar in my bag to hold me over so I can get real food. Yeah,
I think that hyper focus is so very real. In your life, what were other things that you would hyper focus on?
It can literally be anything. I would hyper focus into playing video games, and some people would look at that as, oh, you're addicted to video games. No, it's I enjoyed it, and I would just get so engrossed in what I was doing I couldn't come out. Or even just reading a book, getting completely obsessed with getting to the end.
Okay.
And you just keep reading, even though it's like, you have to go do something, but you have to see the end of this chapter. And then you have to see the end of that chapter. It turns in you have to see the end of the book.
Okay.
And
so for you with ADD, it wasn't a problem reading a book. Sometimes people struggle with even being able to finish reading an email, let alone a book.
Yeah. Initially, that's what it was. When I was younger, I read all the time.
Okay.
Now, we're all so sucked into our technology anymore. It can be hard to pick up a book again, but so usually I can do, if I'm interested in it, I can read. If I get an email at work about something that I'm not considering important, and it's long-winded, you skip things just because you want to get through it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. The other thing that I think can cause us to skip meals, for people who don't know, which everybody probably recognizes except for me, but I have ADD too, and recently treated with medication. And I can tell you the medication causes a loss of appetite.
Oh yeah.
So when you're hyper vigilant, hyper focused on something, plus your medication takes away your appetite, you forget to eat.
Oh yeah. That's where a lot of the protein bars and stuff come in, because my medication, while it can be a blessing, helping me focus and be honest, not eating as much, helping you lose weight a little bit isn't necessarily a downfall, but if it goes too far, then you're undernourished.
Yes.
And that's where the protein bars and V8s also come in, because if I'm taking my medication like I do first thing in the morning, I know it's going to happen. So when I take it in the morning, I take a vitamin with it.
Okay.
I drink a V8, and I make sure I eat something high in protein, whether it's a protein bar, protein shake, a fruit that has protein, something that kickstarts me to starting off. Because what I've found is if I take that without eating, it drains my energy, gives me an upset stomach.
Yes.
So the medication definitely comes into play, but there are ways to work around that as well.
Yeah, you are giving so many good tips.
Trying.
I think oftentimes people don't realize what to do or how to manage it. So, some of these tips I've not even heard of before, so I think they're great. So how has the ADD affected your personal relationships?
It can be difficult. because not the hyper focus can take place from anywhere from 20 minutes to hours, and then your significant other comes to you and you've paid no attention to me today. You haven't texted me. You haven't. Well, it's not that I don't miss you, or my sister will come to me and you haven't talked to me in a week, and it's not that I'm not thinking about people. It's that I guess I am not thinking about people. It's not that I forget about them if they're not important. It's I'm not focused on anything but right in front of me. It's hard to plan future events. You go 3 months without talking to a friend you swore you'd text every week. Right. That kind of thing. It can take some understanding on the people who are important in your life. It's hard for them to process. Especially in personal relationships with significant others. It takes a special person to be able to be with someone who constantly is absent-minded. Or did you listen to what I said? I told you last week we were going here. It's like, no, I don't even remember that conversation. And a special person had that patience to, well, this is where we're going. Can you please make sure you're ready? And to understand that you go through that.
Yes. So what I heard was certainly understanding and patience. Any other thoughts that you would give to someone in a relationship with someone who has ADD?
Well, the patience is by far the biggest. But just understand that it's not that they don't care about you. It's just that they're not always focused on the relationship. And a lot of times it can be difficult to display emotions that others are so easy to do because we just don't feel them on the same level or are able to express them in the same way. We don't think about certain things at certain times. And sometimes it may be as simple as, I really was down today, and it's not that we didn't care that you were down. We didn't totally get that. We had 4 other thoughts in our head, and the 5th one kind of moseyed on through. And then an hour later, you're sitting there like, oh, shoot, that was a sign. They wanted me to sit there, and then we, call you back and put the effort in. And sometimes that hyper focus comes into play of, we can also then on the complete opposite get too needy.
And can you talk to us about that?
So sometimes you can go from, I went a whole day and I'm completely fine, I don't need anybody, and then the next day your girlfriend comes over, or your boyfriend comes over, and you don't want to leave their side. Let's watch this movie together, I'm going to sit by you the whole time. And we can even get personality quirks where it's like we want the attention so much we start getting pestering. Pay attention to me, you start poking your significant other and turn into basically like a puppy that just wants constant attention. I guess a cat's more relevant here because at the same time we can turn around and want none. And it can be hard to. So ultimately patience, I'd say, is the strongest. Just knowing what they're going through and knowing that sometimes they're trying their best, but it's not always coming through very well. And there's a lot of irritability that comes with it too. I think I've definitely had frustration and irritability problems where on a dime I can go from perfectly fine to completely rage-filled. And it can happen in an instant and go away just as fast. But to, again, patience and the forgiveness aspect of, I'm sorry, I did not mean what I said, especially because sometimes we say things faster than we have time to contemplate them. You can say some really hurtful things and not even realize they're coming out. So I think other than just the patience and understanding, it's just forgiveness.
And it sounds like that, doing that repair work after the damage is done is really important too. If you have ADHD and you said something, you can't be prideful and you have to apologize. Because if you don't, nothing's ever going to get fixed. Was there a time where you struggled with your pride? No, I think I still struggle with my pride. But I think we all do at some level, don't we? Oh, yeah. And I would definitely say the typical teen years, 18 to 19, 20. Just turn an adult, everything that works in the world, you're going to be just fine. You have to learn to accept criticism and apologize. More than anything, you're going to mess up. And you have to apologize to yourself and everyone around you. You have to learn to forgive yourself. I forgot you had a day off and you get distracted. You don't get the task done that you want. Instead of beating yourself up and
Because just in the same way you can hyper-focus on a task, I've found you can hyper-focus into an emotion.
Yes.
You can either be, I'm going to be super happy today, or
Right.
you have a low self-esteem that day, you put yourself down, and that's, you're hyper-focused into that sad emotion, and you're eating a bucket of ice cream in bed when you meant to do all your household chores, or
Great point.
call it a certain, you say you need a new car, but you keep putting it off because you don't want to do that. And then you put yourself down, and next thing you know, you're not getting anything else done.
Yeah.
You have to forgive yourself. You have to, accept what you're struggling. You can't look at it as a weakness. You have to look at it as an ability and part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I first initially had it, I didn't want anyone to know.
Okay.
Don't look at me differently. So
there's some shame with it.
Yeah. I didn't want people to know. Like I said, there's a stigma. Are you stupid? Why can't you focus? Right. Now I choose to go the route of, I don't hold it from people. People go, they just met me, and I say something stupid, or I missed a task, or it's just, sorry about that. I have ADHD. Sometimes I don't focus very well, and just wear it as a badge of honor in a way. Like, sorry, I messed it up. I'll do better next time.
Okay.
Or like I said, just take pride in the superpowers that you do have, and being able to sometimes focus on more than one thing at a time, and or figure out a problem that other people can't.
Yeah.
You have to look at the strengths rather than the weaknesses all the time.
I like that. So you had alluded to anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
Did you struggle with anxiety and depression?
I would say the depression for sure.
Okay.
In my early 20s.
Okay.
Got down, and like I said, the self-esteem aspect was the hard part.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just feels like I have an off week.
Okay. Yes.
And everything goes wrong the entire week, and the next week I'm perfectly fine. I have a great week, which can be alluded to. It's not like full-blown depression.
Right.
I don't take medication for it, but yes. I recognize that it happens, and so I can do certain things to fix it. The anxiety sticks around, as far as I can tell. I'm not a real big fan of when things change rapidly all at once. Yes. I prepare for multiple situations, and if they don't go according to plan, it can be overwhelming.
Yes.
Now, in what I do for a living, working in a restaurant, you have to prepare for constant chaos.
Yes.
And so I've learned to adjust some of it, but sometimes it's just still too much.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is as an ADHD person, like I said, with the bags and taking my medication at a certain time, it's helped to form habits so I don't forget things and can accomplish things. And so sometimes when I'm used to doing this at this time every night, you get used to that routine, and when it gets thrown out of whack because someone wants to do something for the evening, your family wants you over for a get-together, or your significant other's like, hey, let's go out with me and my friends, or even you just have, let's say it's the middle of Saturday, and you're used to watching the same TV show while you eat lunch at 1 p.m., and you have to take your dog to the vet, and that's the only time the appointment is available. It can throw your whole day out of whack because you're so set in your ways, and that's where the anxiety can come in, because if it happens too often and too much, as a creature of habit, at least for me, it can be overwhelming, and then that's when the anxiety comes in, the trouble breathing, you have a slight panic attack, or you're just irritable the rest of the day because you're in that constant state of anxiety, and it can be hard on those around you. But like I said, you don't have to let it control you. You can prepare for that best you can. And sometimes in the moment, you just have to take a deep breath and say, you just have to do it. And then throw your favorite thing in, or whatever your habit is, later in the day, or just look around you and do something that you can control real fast. I found this helpful. It's like, I can't control this is happening, but that box of pens should be over on the desk, not in the kitchen. Put that away, you accomplish something, it helps to bring down that stress level. Yeah, absolutely. You've been able to sit here and focus as we've been talking, and we've been talking for a while. Can you give me a little bit of insight as to how you've been able to do that? What vices do you use to be able to sit here? Well, the first is, I enjoy talking about this. Yeah. And I know other ADHD people can talk for a while. Yes. Sometimes we get a little too carried away with what we're talking about. Not this case. So we have to bring it back a notch. So just enjoying the conversation or finding something I enjoy about it can help. Holding even just a little object in your hand.
Yes.
If you've noticed the entire time, I don't know if my hands are in the picture or not, but fidgeting your hands the entire time, it keeps that hyperactivity or irritability contained in an object. And I don't know if I bumped the camera a couple of times, but if you tap your foot, sometimes looking at it, it's just, oh, you're super restless. No, it's just a coping mechanism.
Perfect.
I have something in my bag actually at all times. It's called a fidget cube. And if I ever am going to be in a situation where I have to sit still for a long period of time, I pull it out, because you need to be able to, keeping your hands busy is huge. Because if you can occupy something, then you're able to control, I found, the rest of your body from getting too all over the place. Right.
The brain goes here, you know, and so that you're able to at least slow down the thoughts. At least for me, that helps me to slow down the thoughts so I can be in the moment.
Yeah.
So what would you say, you know, if you were to write a thank you letter to somebody through your journey, who would you write that to?
I think the thank you note would most probably go to my mother.
Yes.
Because
tell me why.
More than any other person, she has had the greatest understanding and the most patience.
Yes.
You know, family boils over times.
Sure.
You get mad.
It's family.
But she's had to deal with not only me, but my sister, who also has it.
Okay.
And she, I mean, I put her through hell in my teen years.
Okay. Yes.
Especially after 16. I mean, you got the raging hormones of a growing young adult guy on top of, I mean, the testosterone and the alpha male aspect of my personality in general. Was not easy to deal with. And I can admit that now of what could have been done differently. But at the time, I also wasn't medicated. I had no idea I had it. We just knew I was a problem child in a way.
Okay. Yeah.
But she always had grace and forgiveness. She'd get mad at me and then calm down later and apologize for how she reacted when I was the one who was in pain.
Okay. Good.
And then she's always been there to talk, and she's always willing to do whatever she has to make the situation better. From when I was struggling with money a couple years back and I couldn't afford my medication, that wasn't something she was going to let slide. Yeah. It was, if you have to put all this here, I'm buying it for you because you're not going without it.
Right.
So she's just always been there and the biggest supporter.
Yeah. Our moms are great. So the thank you would definitely go to mom.
Yeah.
Good. So as we wrap up, is there anything else you would want to share with our viewers that would be helpful in discussing ADD or your journey even?
Not necessarily anything that comes off the top of my head that we haven't touched on already. But the biggest thing I can just nail home, I think, is the acceptance of it. Don't look at it as a weakness, look at it as a strength.
Yeah.
Because our brains think faster, I've often noticed that I seem to have sometimes faster reflexes. It's helped me in sports or even just catching a glass that's about to fall off the table because I was able to see what I was doing, but catch that in the corner of my eye. So that could be physical. It could also, I like to look at it as a mental ability where my brain was able to focus on two things at once and I was able to notice that the glass was going to fall or the problem solving or just accept that it's what's going to happen, that sometimes you're going to accidentally say the wrong thing because you're not thinking or you're really excited. And so everything's just firing on all cylinders and you get
so true.
Really crazy. And you say a bunch of stuff and people's like, whoa, calm down. You just, if you can channel it into something positive, it doesn't have to control you in the same way you control it.
Yeah, good. I think that is so wise. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for being vulnerable and talking to us about ADD and your struggles in life.
No problem.
Until next time, thank you for joining us on Unsung Heroes Live podcast. Thank you for joining this episode of Unsung Heroes Live. Each week, we highlight a hero that has created a life of joy and peace despite the challenges. Through their transparency, life's biggest questions are answered. For additional resources and community support, go to www.christyknights.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Christy Knights.
Be real, be raw, just be the hero that you are.